to own it. Just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here. Oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Welcome to Everything is Sparkle. With us is Erika. Erika, tell us what you're doing these days.
Hi, well, great to be on the show. Thank you for having me. So right now, I actually just got done with my last bodybuilding competition. I flew out to Arizona and competed in the USA Nationals.
Are you serious? How exciting.
Yeah, it was eye-opening, that's for dang sure. So many great, strong women.
Okay, so you went into the competition. Where did you place in that? What was your was it physique or?
No, I did bikini.
Bikini.
Yeah, so I've only actually been doing bodybuilding for about 4 months now. I started in April and qualified my first show. So I just thought, I'm just gonna go for it. So 4 months later, I tried to go for nationals and I didn't do great. You know, I didn't place how I wanted, but I got really great feedback from the judges. So I'm gonna just go out and tone and condition this season, which is what they told me I needed to do, and try again next year.
Wow. I mean, how does that feel? People always tell me oh, why don't you compete? Why don't you compete? And it's I'm I don't know if I could stand that. How can you do that?
Honestly, there is no greater feeling. Competing for me was always something that was on my bucket list, something I would say oh, one day I'll do it, you know.
When you were a kid, at what point did you start thinking that's something I really wanted to do?
Kind of when I started getting into fitness. Maybe I didn't really get into fitness until about my late 20s.
Tell us that story, because what was your life like before you got into fitness?
Partying 24/7, drinking. I was in the restaurant business. So I started.
I know how that can be.
Yeah, I started bartending at 21, and there was probably maybe one night a week that I wouldn't go out, you know.
It's hard. It's hard being in that industry.
Yeah, late nights, you know, you get home, you're tired, you're hungry, you don't feel like cooking. What's open, you know, or your coworkers get off, it's late night, you want to go have one cocktail. One turns into four, and then
you wake up and you do it all over again.
Exactly. That, or you wake up and you feel so crummy that you don't want to do anything the next day, you know?
And I love that you bring that up, because a lot of people try to downplay their unhealthy habits before they got healthy. And you're like, no, this is kind of how it was. Were you ever overweight?
Oh yeah. At my heaviest, I was 180 pounds. I mean, I was never humongous, but was I unhealthy? 100%. 100%. I think I went to about a size 9 was the biggest pant size that I wore. And it wasn't anything that I was really overeating or, you know, splurging a lot. It was just honestly the unhealthy habits that add up. The eating late at night, you know, not having that Taco Bell at 2:00 in the morning, or drinking all those vodka cranberries and pina coladas and sugary filled drinks. You know, after a while they pile up on you. And if you're not active and if you're not actually doing anything about it.
So what are you doing now? Now you have the healthy habits. You're completely healthy. You're dieting to be in these shows. That's another reason I don't want to do that. I don't like dieting at all. What's the turnaround? Is it hard? Is it hard to be in this zone now? Is it hard to go from one extreme to another?
I don't think so. I think if you try to go night and day, yes, 100%. There is no way you can go from eating whatever you wanted to completely being on a diet. You have to slowly build up to it and learn how to eat healthy. There is really good food that is healthy.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of sugar-free sauces you can use, a lot of seasonings you can use that are salt-free, sugar-free, whatever. And it actually makes the food taste really good. I just think people think diet, they think, oh, I got to eat, you know, chicken and rice. Chicken
right.
rice
I think that's every day. The standard for sure. A lot of people think that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think for most, myself included, I can't do that. Chicken, rice, veggies every single day gets boring. Yes, even on diet, I eat the same thing, but it's not just chicken, veggies, rice, you know?
So what do you tell everyone, that they should prep cook? Is that kind of like your big solution to a lot of people's problems, that they're just eating too much on the go and the bad stuff, and you're suggesting that they prep cook more?
I definitely think cooking at home and cooking your meals for the week, especially at least lunch, you know, if you're on the go, have some snacks ready on hand so that you don't stop by McDonald's to grab yourself that burger. You know, have yourself some rice cakes or string cheese, a couple yogurts with you. You know, I always carry a little lunch pill with me. I know it sounds kind of goofy, but I always have a lunch pill with me, and I just throw some of my favorite snacks in there. So no matter what, if I get hungry, I know I have my go-tos there that I packed myself or I cooked myself, and I know exactly what I'm putting in my food. You know, there's no hidden secrets.
Right. No, that's a really smart advice. So when's the next show? We got done with Arizona. What's the next one coming up?
I just started my off season, so I probably won't be doing another show until next year. I think I might wait and just prepare for nationals and make that like my one big show. My goal is to get my professional bodybuilder card. I want to be a pro.
So who are some of the idols you look up to?
Right now, I love Attila, I believe. And then there is another Laura Lee. She just placed fourth in the Tampa Pro. Those two girls, I would say in bikini, are the two that I look up to. And then as far as like bodybuilding for wellness, which is I think where I want to take my route next, would probably be Yarishna. She just won first place. She's like the first ever wellness girl to qualify for the Olympia. So she's goals.
Nice.
Definitely.
That's really cool. So exercise wise, like what, you're going to amp up the routine because you always get better than the last time, right? What are you going to do to amp it up this time?
Conditioning more. So I think I just have to go in and start hitting a lot more repetitions and just make sure that I target every single muscle group and not skip anything, you know. When it comes to nationals, I noticed like you may go in and you may bring in the best package you can possibly bring, but always have in mind that day off you took, someone was probably there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that extra cheat meal you allowed yourself, someone else deprived themselves of that cheat meal. There's always someone striving, working harder. So you got to push. You can't cheat yourself, basically.
As a cheat meal, one of your motivations, so is that something you fantasize about?
It is when I get closer to towards the end of the show, it is, because when you get closer and closer to the show, those cheat meals become less and less. And the flavoring that you can add, like the extra additives that you can add to your food, becomes less and less. So by that point, it's like, okay, I've already been prepping now for how many months or how many weeks. You want that. Like that. For me, it's sweets. That's what I crave the most.
That's your devil. It's usually either salt or sugar for people. So you're the sugar girl.
I'm the sugar girl, 100%. Give me that chocolate. Give me that like banana pudding. You know, those cookies. I love cookies.
So what have you done? What's your alternative now? When you want something sweet, what do you go to? Like, what's your cutting corner thing that you go to? When
I was on prep, when I had a buddy actually tell me that adding Splenda to my rice with a little bit of cinnamon, he goes, when you can have your carbs, if you don't want to eat it with your meal, he goes, save it and have it for dessert. And I'm like, rice for dessert? He's like, yeah. He goes, throw a couple packets of Splenda on there, a couple dashes of cinnamon. He's like, mix it up and it'll taste like arroz con leche. And I tried it.
That.
And I tried it and it tastes like arroz con leche, minus, like the condensed milk, but it has the same flavoring and it kicks that itch that you have. And then I decided I had an idea to add sugar-free whipped cream to it when it's warm. And then you stir it up. that's when it comes and it starts getting the consistency of like the leche.
That's really, really cool. Yeah. Okay, Erika. So give us some like tips. Do you have a trainer right now? Who's your trainer for when you compete?
Myself.
Oh, really? Do you like confer with other trainers or not really?
I have a couple friends who do it. As far as like my meal preps, I started talking to a friend down at the Flex Factory actually, and he's been reviewing my meal preps now.
So a Jim?
Yeah. Yes. So Jim actually just started helping me. And he's been fine tuning my meal preps now. So I'll be going to him to really make sure everything's like my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted. Because like I said, my pro card is what I want and I need to make sure every box is checked, you know?
I've never really heard of someone going for that. Didn't have a trainer though. Do you want to work with Andy?
I've thought about it before. So when I started initially, I had already had a trainer. But I had a trainer that coached me through peak week, but I was still doing my own meal preps and my own like workout plan. So as the shows progressed, I was I kind of slowly separated myself and decided to go on my own for nationals. And then once I did nationals, that's when I started talking to Jim. So it literally kind of happened like I had a coach, then I did it.
In a good direction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because doing your own meal plans, like I can do it on myself, no problem. But when you're prepping, that's the added stress you don't already want because you already have prep brain. You know, you're already foggy because you're eating less and less. You know, you're on a calorie deficit, so you don't need to stress yourself out anymore.
So how much do you weigh now? Are you at your ideal weight?
Right now I'm at 124. Yeah. I started in April. When I started, I was 140.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was it those last few pounds that was the hardest to lose?
No, honestly, it was the first what was it? Like 20 or so, 12 pounds or
really?
so. Yeah, because so for my first show, it was in May. So I had from April 3rd to about May 8th to lose like over 20 something, like 15 pounds. So that was probably the hardest, is having to do it in such a short amount of time because I went crazy. Emotions were wild.
Well, is it like, do you cry sometimes when it gets hard in the last stretch? Be honest, because a lot of people don't say about how hard. I know
100%. The first, so it gets easier. Every show gets easier. Every prep gets easier.
You get a little more confident. You're like, I know what to do this time. You learn something every time.
You know what to do. You're already prepared for what to come. You know, you already know what to go grocery shopping for or what to cook in advance or whatever. So you don't have to worry about that. But the first show, when I wasn't prepared, you know, you get home, you're tired, the pressure's on because not only do you have to train, but then you have to come home and practice your posing. So that's like an extra 30, 40 minutes, you know, in front of the mirror, having to do all your poses. And that, if you haven't done posing, is a workout in its own.
I know that's what Andy's so good at. That's what I was like, do you want to work with her? Because I mean, I give you so much credit for doing this and taking this on.
Took pro. I saw her girl Mindy. She was at nationals and I ran into her and she took pro. She made pro, so that's so great. I saw a bit of her routine. She killed it.
So what did you score? Do you know what you score in each category? They tell you like what you score with posing. Like, what is it that didn't get you to that level, or you don't really know?
So the feedback that I got from one of the judges was basically I just need to condition a little bit more. You know, obviously with 4 months, I didn't have the allotted time to really train and, like I said, target every body part as much as some of the girls that are doing it. The girl who took overall for bikini, she's been competing for 5 years. So she's had the time to really chisel everything down. So, I mean, she looked amazing.
You're basically just sculpting your body. It's 100% body sculpting.
Exactly. Pretty much.
So for the next competition, how long do you have to prep for that?
So right now I'm just going to kind of work out. I have a surgery that I have coming up in December. So that'll be taking a couple weeks off for that, and then I'll probably get right back into it.
That's always so hard how those surgeries mess everything.
I know. Well, you got it. Yeah. I'm like, thankfully it's only 6 weeks recovery time, they say. So
are you gonna try to keep on a diet during that time?
Oh, for sure. Diet. And they said that, I think after like the first 2 weeks or something, I can start walking again and doing like cardio. So I'm gonna be a cardio bunny for those 6 weeks.
But you gotta listen to them, because if you start lifting, you can mess everything up.
I know, and God forbid, I wouldn't, trust me, I don't want to jeopardize myself not being able to like do another show. You should do it, trust me.
Oh no.
Those who are telling you that you need to compete, there is no other experience like stepping out on that stage after you busted your booty for however many months, weeks it took to prep, you know, those like that 1 minute or those like 30 seconds that you get up there to strut your stuff in that itty bitty bikini, girl, that's your time to shine. Like, you busted your booty, everyone just paid money to come see you strut your stuff.
It's kind of like the Olympics a little bit. Like, that's your moment.
Yeah, seriously, like that's like it is your moment. All eyes are on you for those 30 seconds. Like, all the lights are on you. Everyone is watching.
Erika, what's your day job?
I'm a legal secretary.
Oh, how fun. So tell us that, because you spend hours in the gym, you're doing all this. So if you have an 8 to 5, when do you work out?
Right after work, you make the time.
That's rough, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yes. It can get lonely. I'm not going to lie. During my competition, you know, with the prep brain, like I said, and just, you know, you're tired, you're emotional because you're hungry, all that stuff. And you start to feel a little bit lonely because you don't have time. You know, I would wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. I would go do an hour of cardio, go to work. Then on my lunch, I would go do another 30, 40 minutes of cardio, go back to work. Then right after work, go back to the gym, train again for another, hour and a half. And then if I had energy in me, do another like 20, 30 minutes of cardio. And then you get home, it's like 8:30. What do you have to do? You got to cook because you're eating 6 meals a day. So you don't get to lay down till about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then you got to do it all over again the next day.
Think about it, Erika, because it's like you just said, like, you used to go, you know, work at the restaurants and go out and have drinks after work, like that. And I bet some of your colleagues or people that you work with they're doing the after work drinks and everything. So now you went from being this social
butterfly,
all of that, to this whole other world that is isolating. And I know, because, you know, we're in it together. I mean, you way more than me because you have to be with all that, but it's like, you know, it's people just don't realize the dedication that, you know, and I'm so glad that you were opened up about it being lonely, because
but there were plenty of times when I would cry because, you know, my girlfriends would be like, hey, let's go do this, or hey, let's go do that. And I would feel bad because I'd be like, hey, I can't, sorry, I got the gym, you know? And it's like, oh, the gym, really? But yeah, I have the gym. Like, that's part of my lifestyle. Like, you don't understand, you know, especially when you're on prep. That's your second job pretty much, because you're not going to cheat anybody besides yourself. You know, the results are going to be showing based on your hard work. And if you don't put the work in, the results are not going to show.
And don't you feel that guilt if you do go out and then, or you do something, or like you said, you have that surgery coming up, or you go on vacation to see your family, and then, you know, like, oh my God, when am I going to work out again? And you get that little itch, like, I have to be doing this. And you're like thinking, like, every minute you're like wasting not working out to reach that goal.
If I go on vacation, I make sure my hotel has a gym.
Well, I'm just losing a day of travel. There's always the BS of like that day of travel where it's like, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, granted, even now that I'm on off season, I should be taking more rest days, you know, and that's really tough for me. I was used to doing cardio about 6-7 days a week. Now that I'm on off season and I'm trying to build muscle, I shouldn't be doing cardio as much. So I need to cut it down to about 3 days. It's mental for me. I'm like, oh my God, I have a lunch. the other day I took a lunch and it felt so long. It was like the longest hour of my life because I'm so used to changing, going to the gym, doing like 40 minutes of workout, changing again, and then my lunch is over. And I just sat there like, this is lunch. It was the weirdest thing for me because it seriously felt so long. I felt like I wasn't being productive. You know,
I know the feeling, girl.
I need to be working out. Like no.
Was your social life like that? Were you dating like during this time? Because I know that could be it's hard, right? Unless you're dating somebody in the
exactly
mental, they don't get it if you date a normal person, they don't get it.
100%. They have to at least be maybe not in, bodybuilding itself, but have a lifestyle in fitness or in
right,
so that they can at least understand and respect your journey. Because if you do have a partner, hopefully they are 100% supportive because it is not easy. We get cranky, we get moody. We're, like I said, we are emotional.
And date night's not different. I mean, date night is usually a nice dinner and drinks, and then now date night's a little bit.
Now date night is, well, I'll eat my chicken and I'll smell your food. Let me just have one bite of your fry and I'm good.
So what's your goal? I mean, you said, you want to become pro and everything. What's the end game? Do you want to motivate up and coming girls and kind of help them get ready for their competitions? What are some of the things you see in your future?
I would love, once I become pro, to use what I have to help other girls, coach them. If I could eventually even get better at my posing, I would just want to encompass it all. Right now I'm doing personal training online as it is. So
and online coaching?
What's that?
Online coaching?
Yeah. And so
awesome.
I just started it. But so eventually, down the road, once I become pro and I learn more, I want to encompass it all. I want to go back, get my bachelor's in nutrition and just really have all the info that I need.
So you want that to be your career. You would actually give up what you're doing now. I hope your boss isn't watching.
No. And I mean, to be honest, I told them, I said, my 10-year plan is to eventually have my own business in fitness.
That's smart. It's good.
So
it's good
they know that I'm all about fitness. Trust me. One of the first things I told them was that I just started bodybuilding and they were 100% supportive. In fact, they get so excited for me. And I've actually
cool.
Yeah. I've actually had a couple of my coworkers come out to me too and say, hey, do you mind writing me up like a meal plan or something, or like a workout plan to motivate me to start going and getting into it. And I've done it for a couple of them. So it's great.
Okay. So this is like a weird question, but now that you're kind of coaching online, the problem is I'm sure you get these clients and they're not you. They're not trying to bodybuild. They're not trying to do all these things. And then you're trying to tell them to diet. You're trying to tell them to do things. And I mean, their passion or the level of keeping up a diet and the level of keeping up with that. How do you explain that to them? And then a lot of times they think they're going to look like you when they're not going to put in a quarter of the, because you're going to put in 5-10 million times more than they are. How do you explain that to them?
I tell them that we all start from somewhere, that progress is not going to be overnight. I say you're going to feel the difference before you see the difference.
That's a really good way to put it. I'm glad you said that.
You're going to feel the difference and you're going to notice the difference in your clothes before you actually see a physical difference. The toning comes after you cut, and when you see yourself every single day, it's really, really hard to see an actual physical difference when it's very, when it's small.
Right.
But when you give yourself an allotted amount of time and then you see the change, that's when you're really going to notice, holy cow, wow, I really did make a change. So I try to tell everyone the journey is yours and yours alone. The progress is going to be yours and yours alone. How fast it is, that's up to you. And that's up to the work you put in it. How much you follow my meal plan or the meal plan that I give you and how much work you put into going to the gym or even just doing cardio or being active, that all is going to show in your results. So the journey
you feel
is
like they're
alone.
honest with you though about stuff like that, about the diet? Do you feel like you get honest feedback if they're following it or not, or do you think they lie to you sometimes?
For the most part, from some of the clients I actually have, I think because the meal plans that I give them a meal plan and I say, this is what you should be eating and this is what a healthy day looks like for you. And then I give them the options. So I say, okay, you should be having like this much protein. Well, here are your options. It's your choice to make your meal plan. You decide what you want to eat. Here's my healthy sauces that I use. Here's some of my favorite recipes.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And you decide your own meal plan. And I kind of help them, like, in a sense, build their own meal, because they get to decide, oh, okay, well, she said I can have this much of chicken, turkey, or beef. Well, I'm going to make myself some little corn tacos because she said I can have this much of, my carbs.
So you guys are communicating like that, and
absolutely. I tell my clients 100%, feel free to reach out to me. I send them healthy substitute, like a list of healthy substitutes that they can use. Some of my clients will reach out and say, hey, when I'm craving this is what I crave the most. And I'll try to see what I can find for them that will help cure that itch. Because sometimes all we need is that taste.
Yeah, that's what I was asking you. I know it's like there ought to be a corner you cut for your sugar cravings. I know that there's always corners we cut for little things.
Exactly. Oh, are you kidding me? I have so many like little skinny syrup drinks that I have now, and I'm starting to like bring them into work, and some of my coworkers are catching on. They're like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm like, I know.
That's awesome. No, and that's really cool that you tell them that. I always feel like I'm always getting lied to about different things, or I know people aren't putting in the extra cardio and the extra stuff. So I just wondered how you handled that.
The same thing. I tell them, the results are yours and yours alone. As long as you stay consistent, you'll see the results. I said, if you fall off one day, don't beat yourself up. Just go back the next day. If you
don't beat yourself up,
what's that?
No, that's the same thing we do. It's like they don't, because that's the biggest problem a lot of people have. Is like once they get off, they get so like, oh my God, now I'm just going to go on a tangent. I'm going to go on a binge. It's like, exactly. Like almost like being an alcoholic. It's like you could have a bad day and be good the next. And it's the same.
Exactly. Like you can have a bad day, and then a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'll just start all over next week. And then they mess up again. Yes. And then they mess up again next week. And then it's like, oh, well, you know what? I'll just start at the beginning of the month. That way, and it's like, there's always going to be an excuse.
Right.
There's always going to be a reason why not to whatever, there's always going to be temptation. There's always going to be that donut. But that's the point. There was always going to be that donut. So you can always have it.
Right.
Just use that more as a motivator. Right. I did my work all week. I was great all week. I'm going to allow myself to enjoy this piece of cake or this girls' night out and all these cocktails, because then you really can enjoy the food.
You've earned it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on my show, Erika. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, and thank you so much. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming on Everything Sparkle today, Christie. Tell us about yourself and what you're working on right now.
Well, I'm a comic book artist. I'm an artist that lives in LA, and I do a comic called Demon Bitch, and she's about a low-level demon where people who like lives on the 13th pit of hell, where people throw their dog crap and gum wrappers. And she wants to bring the second coming of Armageddon, but the first one never happened because she's stupid. She's based on some of the really terrible women that I used to know, and I know some women. Oh yeah, some of the other women that I used to know that were horrible. And it's not just based on women, but men.
Do they know this, Christie? Tell me they know this. Tell me they figured out you're talking about them, because I'll be really bad.
I think some of them are in the know. I think some of them are in the know, and they're kind of mad. But since I don't put any names to anything, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And they're truly, honestly horrible people. Now, people get this misconception that, I just am mad at you. So therefore, will you stop chewing on the Mardi Gras beads? My evil black cat is here, by the way. See?
Oh, is that one of your characters?
Well, Demon Bitch is basically the main character, and she's based off the wannabe. Now, let me set this with a preface. I have friends that are actors and models. They work hard, okay? Artists too. So this is not just making fun across the board. But in LA, you know how Matt Groening wrote Life in Hell, like when he first moved to LA? Well, I kind of did Personal Monsters. That's kind of the precursor book of just jerks that I found in LA. And then now it went into like Demon Bitch. And Demon Bitch was kind of based off some of the women I'd run into. Like initially they'd be really nice. And then you find out they were like these really incredible drug addicts and narcissists. Like they would act really disarmingly sweet, but then they go and get like, they'd just be snorting like 30 days worth of Coke and drinking JD and then saying, oh, I have an eating disorder. I'm like, you sure as hell do.
It's funny you say this. I used to own a shot girl company in LA where these girls would sell those little test tube shots, and they'd go around to like all the different clubs, and it was a very lucrative business. And I got a lot of actresses and models because they could come in and work in a club without having to be a server, and it's hard to get a bartending position. So they loved it. They got to come and be the highlight. But I ran into a lot of those women, and it was funny because I get them from different states. So, they'd come from Texas and they would be awesome at first. And then they became LA-ified. And then the BS started happening where it's like they have these excuses not to come into work and do this and that. And everything that you're saying, we know the same type.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just kind of making fun of really awful people. And sometimes they just like be certain types that I'd see. Like, for example, with Egg Lady, she was somebody I had known, and she was a lawyer actually. But she was always on about it's like if you were in a relationship, she wasn't happy with you. But what's even worse is that she was a lawyer for criminal and immigration. And you're thinking, how is that bad? I said, well, she would take people's money and not represent them in court. So not surprisingly, she got disbarred. I was not friends with her at the time when I found this out. It was like I had stopped being friends with her. I was like, you're an asshole. I just don't want to be with you. But we had mutual friends. I said, oh, so-and-so got disbarred. And we're like, so just some shit happened. So it's just like kind of making fun of these really messed up stereotypes or messed up people. So it's kind of like also in this journey too. It's like, we always bring up mental illness and this and that and all that. But I think what's good that we're wising up to is that even mentally ill people can be jerks, and it's weird because like I have friends that have really hardcore mental conditions from bipolar disorder to schizophrenia. But they're one of the greatest people I know, and they're very sweet. They manage their conditions. They are very creative. They are on top of things. So, I mean, again, there are some people that genuinely are messed up. They need the help. But this is aside from that. These are people that are actually jerks. Like they will use their conditions to get away with whatever messed up things that they do on people. And it's messed up. I mean, because, it's kind of like one of these things like you're that person that messes up for everybody else, right? So there you go. So it's like my comic, I think, differentiates that. Like I just make fun of this person. I go back to making fun of people that are really awful. Like it's funny because people get it. And in this era of like people going like, well, you shouldn't offend this and PC that and this and that. I just go and make fun of them, but people get it. Like with Egg Lady, like Egg Lady is this type of person where, she's like saying, I'm in MLM, multi-level marketing. I'm working out constantly. It's like, why are you getting fatter and fatter? You look like a slob. And, most people know what I'm talking about. Like, I have also friends of all different types of shapes, and they're like laughing at it because they know people like that. It's like, you're that person, you know? So it's
That's so funny. And it's true. It's so good that you bring this out, and it's,
yeah.
you're not afraid to just be like, no, it's how it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just, you know, I think people are afraid like on the surface, but I found that the people that kind of jump on you for making fun of people like, oh, you're body shaming, oh, you're this, they are the worst offenders. It's like, they're the ones that actually go on and say, oh my God, I bet your tits, you had a lot of work. Or, oh my God, like that bitch is fat. And you're like going, wait a minute, I thought you were all on to body shaming, but you're coming on to me about this crap. It's like, wait a minute, I'm making fun of this person at every single semblance because they're a jerk, okay? They actually did something to me and others. You're just going on some random person's like Instagram account or something and just dogging them, and they didn't even do anything to you. So like for the most part, most people that I find annoying, I have nothing to do with, but these are just people that kept coming into my space, and I'm like, all right, fine, you get made fun of, screw you.
Well, it's kind of impossible. I mean, especially when you live in LA and you're just in the social circles and doing things, you're always going to have people around that you don't like, that you have to see over and over again, right? Isn't it kind of a little bit in the stuff you do? You might not want to hang out with them, but there are sometimes at your like events, like you just kind of run into each other all the time.
Well, I think it's kind of weird because I think they know because they stay away from me. But I mean, the thing is that for the most part, I mean, we're all adults. As long as they can be civil, I can be civil too.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a LA high. Bye.
Yeah, it's like what I've learned in LA is like you have your friends, you have your tribe, and then you have people that you get to know. You should be always open to opening up your tribe, but to let people in, like, you know, I mean, you kind of have to kind of be a little careful about it. And I think that's true of anywhere, no matter where you're at. And, you know, I think when I first moved to LA, you meet, those people, right? That like the fakers and all this other crap, and the closet drug addicts and stuff. It's actually kind of funny. It's like with some of the parties that I've been to, I know they like me because they say, hey, you want to do a bumper in the back of Coke? I'm like, no, that's okay. You know, I mean, you have to like gracefully say, no, that's all right, because that's not my thing. Personally, for me, like stuff like that, I think would just unlock things, and that would not be good. And probably that would be breaking the seventh seal of the apocalypse. I don't know. I just get that weird feeling. But for me, I think, you know, you can be civil and not like somebody, you know, as long as they're not overtly being a butthole to you. I think that's okay. I mean, if there's somebody I heavily disagree with, I can still be nice to them.
Right.
You know? I mean, there's certain like boundaries you don't cross. Like if they tried stabbing you in the back or openly being violent with you, it's like, no, just get away from me. But other than that, you know, it's like, I think this either or thing in humanity that we're trying to get to lately is kind of ridiculous sometimes.
And kind of impossible.
Yeah. It's like, you know, like, oh, you're this, oh, you're that. And it's like, what if I'm kind of like this thing, like I have my own set of reasons and I'm okay. Like I realized one time I had gotten really pretty ill. Like I had to have a tumor removed from my pancreas. And it's like, it's always so funny because before I go on any show, I'd like, don't talk about the pancreas thing, but it ends up happening. But
you brought it up, girl.
Yeah, I know. It's like, all right, okay, I kind of did that. But yeah, okay, I had a tumor in my pancreas, no cancer, by the way. But it was weird because some of my friends are very religious and some of my friends are atheists. And that's fine, whatever camp you're in. Mm-hmm. But it was funny how they were trying to pull me into their camp. Like they said, God went and healed Christie and blah, blah, blah. And then the other said, no, science just healed her. I'm like, why can't it be both, you guys? Like, I'm sure both. Like, why? This is amusing that you're pulling me into your own individual camps. Like, stop, you know? There's also different ways that the Almighty can work with anybody. And there's different ways that how science can represent the Almighty and the Almighty can represent science. Just chill out, you guys. Like, you know, I think most people, when you have a conversation with them, they're literally like, they have their own set of things. Like when you really talk to them about really controversial subjects one-on-one and not screaming at them on Facebook, you're actually more in agreement with them than anything. And, you know, the less you judge somebody on the surface. Now people say, well, your comic's about judging people. I said, well, there's judgmental and there's judging a person. Okay. They're kind of the same. But what I mean by judgmental is like, if I see a girl and she's 36, 24, 36 size, let's say, for example, let's pick the most common one. Oh, okay, then she must be dumb. Like that type of crap. And it's not, there's some girls that are like that are dumb, but there's some of them are smart and some of them are average intelligence. Like it's kind of like thinking blondes are stupid or something. I like my share of blonde jokes, but I see my share of redhead jokes too. But it's kind of like people are kind of thinking like they shouldn't have humor. And even Frank Zappa wrote songs that were like totally not PC. And some people got mad at him about it. He said, this stuff exists. You have to make fun of it. There is a definite line between making satire and being mean, but unfortunately now, like with humor, for the most part, people just want to be mean. They'll just bash somebody and that they think it's funny. It's like, that's not really funny. That's actually not true. And if you play for a certain team, then that would be funny to you because you don't like that person because of that sports team or whatever team.
Right.
Or that's not going to be funny and all that. It's like satire is supposed to be something that sort of like everybody gets. And what I have noticed that I have friends from all different spectrums that read my comics and they think it's funny. Like it's not because they're my friends. I have friends that don't like my artwork and they're still my great friends and supporters. But for the most part, like they look at Demon Bitch and they're laughing because they know that person that's like that.
Right. And they're honest with you. They're your friends. You can have your friends that are like, I'm not into that. And then your friends are like, this is really freaking funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and some people are like, damn, Christy. But, it's like, sometimes it's also like you couple that with being through several like life experiences, like, severe illness to near death experiences can be one. Or just, you've been through a lot and you can just say, you got to laugh at it more, stuff like this, because if you don't, you're really going to be on that thing of like getting closer to offing yourself. Like I've been through that experience, not offing myself, but been through those dark nights.
So you're taking drama, trauma and making it satire, making it a little bit funny, making fun of yourself a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I know like some people say, well, why were you around those people? So, well, we all go through evolution. I thought at one point these people were actually okay to be with. And the thing is, sometimes people lie, I mean, we all can relate to people like you, me. We've been friends with people and they turn out to be real shitheads, let's say, for the lack of the better word. But it's like, at first they put up a front like they're nice. Like they'll do it for a year. Or they'll do it like for X amount of time. And then they'll do little things and you're not really sure. And then it's a learning experience because you're like, well, that person wasn't a good person for me. And it gets more and more as you get older. It hopefully will get less and less. But, when you're 20, you're kind of stupid, like I've been 20. We're all kind of stupid when we're 20. And then,
you don't know yourself, let alone other people.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because you just don't have any experience. So when people go like, oh, well, you were dumb. It's like, okay, that's a little harsh sometimes. I mean, you can do dumb things. Like smoking crack is a dumb thing to do, no matter how much you want to go and like shake it out. Like I've just heard some crazy ass stories from people. Like one guy, he was with this one girl, like I guess they knew each other for a long time. It's like, oh, she said, do you mind if I smoke? And he said, sure. Thought, vaping or cigarette.
Oh, that's what I would assume too.
Breaks out a full-on crack pipe and lights it up. I'm like, I would be like, what the? Like, that's like, what? And sometimes people do that. They'll do stuff like that.
And that smells disgusting. I'll never forget the first time I smelled that. I was kind of like, what the heck is that?
What does it smell like? I kind of
like chemically, like it's a weird smell. I'll never forget it. I've only smelled it once and it like left a lasting impression.
Yeah, like I walk in downtown LA. You've probably been in downtown LA. It's like fart and pee and like I never knew like the smell of like rotting pee until, like I said, what's that weird smell?
Oh
like,
yeah,
smell like burning tires.
You never forget that smell.
Yeah, it's like burning tires. I said, oh, that's them peeing everywhere. Like, because you've never, like, if you've never been around an area where they've just let that happen, where it's sat that long. I'm sorry to say, guys, this is now the toilet humor of the show. So yeah, it's like funny because it's like with Demon Bitch, I just make it as gross as possible, which is hilarious. But now I've been finding out in my fashion sense, I'm getting as bougie as possible. So I think that's funny. Like when people meet me, it's like, oh, you have such beautiful taste and style, but you draw these really awful fucking comics, So yeah.
Are your characters, I feel like, are they multifaceted? Is it very, do you have it's the good guy, the bad guy, and the bad guy, the good guy a little bit sometimes?
It's also kind of funny because I noticed this when I've been friends with women and men too, but women kind of have a unique perspective on women. And men will have unique perspectives on men. It's just that it is what it is. I noticed like with friendships with women, like when I started out, you know, in my adult path, there were really many levels of complicated and messed up with women. And again, I'm not saying women cannot be good. I'm a woman myself, but almost every woman I've been friends with or are friends with now, they're like, some girls, man. Like that's their reaction. They're like just like, oh my God, like they're like this bitch is crazy, like, or like they would tell me messed up stories, and I'm like, wow. And I've had messed up stories myself, and it's weird because it's a certain level of betrayal where a woman really screws over another woman, because it's like, oh yeah, we're sisters, we're brought up in this sisterhood and everything. And that's why I just kind of like got out of the girl power thing, because they were hijacked by those idiots, you know, that were like, just they used it as another way to kind of make it a click, you know. If you weren't bad enough, then it's like, wait a minute, like, so Penny decided to keep her baby and you're shitting on her for that decision. I thought it was like her decision. Oh no, she's dumb, she should have gotten them. Like, oh, okay, shouldn't you support her? She's an adult, you know, that type of stuff, you know. But if it wasn't according to their viewpoints of what made you a good person, and they were really pretty damn superficial, it's like, wow. And it's really prevalent. And I think a lot of women really like the comic, because it's like, I say, it's essentially what I've been told by somebody else. It's like, you have this, there's this elephant in the room, or there's this thing in the room, and you go like, here you go, it's in your face, like that. So that's what I do. And it's like 50-50. It's like maybe a little more men or a little more women read my comic. But I think I kind of wondered that myself. Like, is it just because it was gross or something? But I had another male friend. I'm like friends with a lot of really cool guys. And they just said to me, no, I think just guys just really want to understand women, and your comic is like that, you know. And I think
that's a good point. You're kind of speaking their language.
Yeah.
So I mean, it gets them into it without them knowing that they're subconsciously learning about women. The worst parts. Thanks, Christy.
Oh, well, no, it's just like, how to identify. Because I did a book called Personal Monsters, and it was actually, let me see if I can find it here. It was actually like a Darwin's origin of the species to assholes in LA. Like, that's essentially what it was. And I tried not to make them all the same. Like, there were some similar families or genuses that I would do, but there would be different enough so you would know. And I even said, like, you know, I've met one gender more than the other, but they can occupy both genders. So it's like, it's not like they don't exist at all. Like, I called a dude a bitch a lot of the time because he was acting like one. He didn't necessarily need to be gay or effeminate or anything. It's just like, yeah, like a bitch, like that, you know. That's what I mean. So
well, nowadays there's a lot of that.
Yeah, like it's just kind of like, dude, just really stop, you know.
Masculinity has a whole new meaning. Like, you know, I don't know if you feel that way nowadays, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of men that are more okay to act like that.
I mean, there's the thing. It's like, I think it's personal preference. And I was making a point of this with one of my friends. I said, look, back in the day we had gender roles, right? And they were pretty like strict. You didn't
almost
go
black and whitish.
Yeah, like let's pick one era. Victorian men and women. Okay, Victorian men and women. You didn't go and differentiate. You didn't go and wobble in between. And men acted a certain way and women acted a certain way, and worked for a while. Okay,
right. Even the 50s, even as recent as that. Oh, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just picking like a really
right
hard knock era. But I mean, now we picked more personal freedom to make our own choices, and I think sometimes we kind of don't really kind of own that personal freedom and power as much as we have. I'm talking about both sexes. Like before, men did this, women did this, and you didn't differentiate. Now it kind of got softer over time. Like 50s, like the 50s were pretty striated, but it was a lot softer than what the Victorians did. You get what I mean? Like, wear freaking pants, I guess. That was the thing.
That's true.
But I'm just saying that, you know, now it's like, well, you can do what you want. And now I think sometimes I get a feeling people are like, oh, what do we do? How do I do this? And it's like, I mean, you guys are always going on about speaking your words and speaking your truth. Communicate more. And sometimes I see such weird artifice. And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys, like, didn't you want this? You know, and I'm not saying we should go back or anything. I am not saying that at all. It's just that I'm a personal believer, like, you need to own up to what you have right now. What did you decide? If you don't want it, change it. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I'm not dismissing wrongdoing. I'm just saying that, you know, I think sometimes the unhappiness with a lot of people is they just are not really honest with themselves.
Where can we read your book? And like, is this a series? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, well, Demon
And
Bitch,
I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to it. I just found out about this today, so I'm a big fan. So let me know where I can find this and catch up.
Okay, well, I'm on Webtoon, so I update once a week. But you can also go to my store on Hora Tora
Studios. So it's what? Webtoon?
Webtoon. I it's on Webtoon, Demon Bitch.
So I can go. Is it so every week I subscribe, or it's what? How do I do it?
You can subscribe. That'll probably be the easiest way because you'll get an alert when I post it up on Wednesday.
Every week. Oh, perfect. Okay. When the comic books come out. Okay.
Yeah. And what I do is that also with HoraToraStudios.com, you know, you can go and find me at appearances. And also you could buy the books because the books, personally, they're
how many are there right now?
There's 3 right now.
How do I get an autographed copy, Christy?
Just order it through my website.
Okay.
Through the store. Through my website, there's a store link. So, yeah, I have this.
So how much is the comic book?
Well, these 2 right here. Let me see.
Because they look very good. They look very detailed and very nice.
Thank you. These 2 are $20 a piece.
Okay. So that's not bad. That's a typical book. Okay.
Yeah. And then this one is 90 pages. So it's 30. But
I was asking for gifts, like how much I would like, you know what I mean? If I make a good gift, and that's the going rate for books. I like that.
Yeah, I always try to price it accordingly. And this one is like water for chocolate, except it sucks because it has really terrible alcohol recipes. Now, my friend Tony, he's like an amateur mixologist, and what's hilarious is that he just got inspired of like making Demon Bitch cocktails. Just in the last book, the She Sucks one. Just during the Kickstarter, he was making random drinks, and I was posting them. I said, you know what? I might as well have to put them in this book.
I love that. So we can make that, you know, because I work at a bar. I would love to like experiment with your cocktails.
There we go. Right there. The Demon Bitch cocktail.
Okay. So what is it? What's the main alcohol?
Let me see. This is King's Ginger, Lafroy Galore, Egg White, and fresh lemon juice and club soda. His thing was to make something that smelled pungent and looked like a cup of semen. Sorry if that's too R-rated.
It does look like that.
Yeah. And then he used cranberry bitters and blackcurrant liqueur to make the face.
That is awesome. I love that. Do you get people posting like that they've made it and then they send you the picture?
They haven't yet. I think they kind of said we're gonna make it.
I'm gonna be the first. I would have made it.
Please do. Yeah, like I think they make it and then they feel so ashamed they made it, so they don't post it ever. It's like we shall never speak of this again. And when this Kickstarter funded, my friend and I, we sat down and Tony made us all of them in the book.
I love that. That's funny.
They were all really bad, but they were a nice level of bad. Like that one tasted like pickle juice to me. So I say I kind of customarily go for one because it's just bad, but it's just great, you know. So I just think it's kind of interesting how this subset of like fans just loves Demon Bitch so much that they just make this random stuff, and I like it. Like one guy, like if you've seen Demon Bitch, you're like, she's not really sexy. She looks sausagey and gross, right? But there were some people that tagged me and said, "Oh yeah, here's a Demon Bitch, and she's got real big boobies and she's hot." And I'm like, okay, you know. But I'm glad how it inspires people. It's like, wow, that's way too sexy to be her. But you did a better job than I ever would of making her sexy. You know, it's just to be funny. But I actually can draw a decent. I can actually draw too.
So did you draw that?
Which one?
Did you draw Demon Bitch? Did you create the look?
Oh, I did.
So you've illustrated all of your own comics?
Yeah, I write and draw all my comics too.
And then did you always know that you wanted this to be a comic, or have you ever thought about writing a book, and then were you just debating on whether this was going to be a comic or this was actually going to be a book?
You know, I think I did it kind of like I wanted to get some rage out. I know that's like the weirdest thing ever, but whatever.
This is your therapy. I got it.
Yeah. And so I just did it. And just the world like shows me new and interesting ways how people can be dumb. So I do it. And that's the funny thing, because I don't think inherently people are really stupid. I think they choose to do dumb things. So it's kind of like making them laugh at themselves about the dumb shit that they do. They're like, even women that go like, oh, I'm a demon bitch. I'm like, wow, okay. You know, and they say, I need to be a better person. So I'm going to buy this book so I can be a better person. I'm like,
wait,
so
now you're changing lives here, Christy.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing God's work, even though it's about a demon bitch. So I think it's just because, like, people also, what I think is kind of messed up is people are told, you need to forget about it. You need to forgive and move on. Look, I'm all about forgiveness. I'm all about moving on. I'm all about moving past your drama. Like, there's some people that are really encouraged to just stay in it and wallow in it like they wet their pants, right?
Yeah, and that's not productive. Don't be that person, but...
No. But I never prescribe to how people, the people thought the artifice of moving on and moving forward and forgiving. Like, people go like, well, I mean, I'm torn because, my mom used to beat me and, should I forgive her? And people are pressuring me to talk to her again. I said, look, dude, forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things. Sometimes they go hand in hand and it's great when it happens, but it's a process. Like forgiveness, it's like, sometimes forgiveness is, I love you with God's love and, I forgive you. And forgiveness can be like, I don't care if a bus hits you. I just no longer care about what you do. I'm done, So forgiveness is a range. Reconciliation is a range. And just to say, oh, just get over and blah, blah, blah. You don't need the negative stuff. It's like, it's nice on the surface, but when you hear a person really saying that and they go back and then they start talking about the shitty time, that one place, oh, this toxic time when and they always keep going back to it. It's like, why are you telling me to forget about things when you keep going back to the same crap that pissed you off years ago?
Right.
It's like a nicety. It's just like, oh, I'm just saying this little tidbit to make my own ego feel better. It's like, no, don't. So I think with demon bitch, it's like working out the anger, but it's also for me moving on. It's like, I don't go out of my way to like look up these people. I don't go out of my way to like, try to ruin their lives. I mean, I don't go by and drive by their house and throw eggs at their car. It's like, it's just a healthy way of pointing out stupid crap that pisses me off. But at the same time, or if I get mad about something, sometimes like stuff that you think you're past, you get mad about. And it's just a way to work the poison out. And I'm all for working the poison out in good ways. But I just think that the advice out there, it's really poorly, I don't want to say the intent is bad. It's just really poorly thought out. And it's kind of done with a half intention of, oh, well, it should never happen again. It's like, well, okay, come on, right? I mean, there's definitely an unhealthy thing. Like if you've been divorced and it's been 5 years and you're still pissed at your ex-husband, it's like, oh, okay, you need to work this out, right? But if you're still mad and you admit to yourself you're mad and you feel all the things, admit it to yourself. It's fine. You're a human being. If this person was horrible to you, then admit it to yourself. I'm still mad about it.
It's a hypocrisy that's annoying.
Yeah, it's very hypocritical. It's like, oh, within this certain time frame, you're supposed to like pat it down. And I've noticed when people do that, they do the very same thing that they're trying to speak against. Like, well, I must have peace. So I've put my ex-husband to rest. Only 5 minutes later to talk about what of a butthole he was to you. It's like, okay, stop, Don't tell me to do things that you cannot do yourself. I mean, it's one thing if you're not, I'm not saying you have to be perfect to give it.
But a lot of people are like that. Most of my friends are like that on.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of like, that's why I never really ask too many people for advice, because it's sort of like they'll kind of say it. And as I'm going through life, I've noticed they don't really sit down and think about it. Just admit to yourself, like, I still hate that bitch from 5th grade because she was such a horrible person to me. And you could admit it to yourself and it doesn't get stuck down deep in. But it's like, I don't like her. But as long as you have the intent of forgiveness, and when you're getting to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done, then you're done. Like, have the intent at one point, you'll be done soon.
Right.
And forgiveness can be a daily effort, and that's totally okay.
Chrissy, this is fun. I love it. I'm going to be a subscriber of Demon Bitch. And I can't wait to make a cocktail, because I'm going to start making cocktails and tagging you in it and saying, look at this, look at what I made. Thank you so much for coming on my show, Chrissy. This is fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciated talking to you and meeting you. And thanks for having me on the show. And I'll drop you the link so it's easier for you to get to it.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh, I must confess, dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what to do, and there's no more use in running, no more running to you. And I don't want your loving, I don't wanna be just friends, knowing all this time we were playing pretend.
It's a mystery.